Hello everyone, this is your Sosby, and today we're here with a special little video. Um, I recently got told by someone that my first set of series of books, my story, is actually in this Nissavan's library. I've submitted it, but I wasn't sure if it was going to get put in. But yeah, I recently found out that it has actually been submitted and it's actually in the library. And to celebrate, I thought I'd show you where it is and then talk about my second set that I'm currently starting to write up. So, here we go. Inside the library, my books are upstairs. I think it was a player called Tawnstar that actually told me and showed me where these are. Big thank you to him. If he wouldn't have told me, I would never known. So, my stuff's in poetry and drama, and my books are just here. So, book one, two, actually, pop up, one. So, what's that? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Unfortunately, they didn't do book 10, which was like the credits and the thank yous, but I think that's all right. So yeah, it's just up here at the poetry by drama thing. Um, yeah, I was really surprised that, and I'm really thankful that they got in. So now I'm just going to cut to a single player world, and I'm going to talk about my next series. See you then.
And we're fading back in.
away. So here we are in a single player world. Here's my next set of story, but it's basically dot formed. I'm writing it down on a Word doc, but here's what the main points are. This set is again 10 books, 3 for story 1, 3 for story 2, 3 for story 3, and then a book of credits at the end. I'm planning on giving this to all the guilds, one friend, copy for the library, and a copy for Roman and Justin. And that's about it. Yeah, with this new book system, it's going to be really difficult to make a lot of books without it costing an arm and a leg. So I'm going to try to get the copies down. This book series is a lot more mature than my previous one. Like in the first one, I have implied death, but in this one, I'm gonna actually have killings and death, and it's gonna be a lot more mature and darker. So, let's get straight into it. Book 1 sets up into Amar and the monk. So, this whole series sets place in this town called Amar, and it's basically a capital city. It's a gnomish city that dwarves also work in, and it's gonna basically introduce you. That's why to this city and this monk. And I'm doing a whole book towards this because I want to just introduce it here and not really have to talk about too much over there. Book 2 is about working and the event picking. So this monk is a dwarf who has healing capabilities, which is very rare. So he gets sent to the monastery to learn healing, but the problem is everyone else in the monastery is a gnome. So he gets a lot of crap and a lot of discrimination about it because he is the only dwarf in basically a gnome tower. And the event picking is what's going to end on that book. And the event picking is basically they need people to test the juice, the healing ales, before it gets sent out to the front lines. And by testers, they mean they're going to give them poisons and then see if the juice works. So his name has been picked. Book 3 pops in. Basically, I'm going to tell you what the poisons are and what their effects are going to do. So it's basically going to be like zombie flesh rubbed on open wounds, drinking venom burner, drinking spiderling poison, and then like an arrow to the heart. And then the last day is him like going to his park when he was a child, visiting his family, basically getting various things, preparing for what could possibly be his last day. And then that story is going to end. Then we're going to pop into book 4. We're going to have a sailor coming into port, and he's going to have all injured, and he's going to go up to the monastery to try to get them all healed. The monk's going to tell him that his men are pretty bad. It'll probably take about a week for them to heal them all up. That comes into important later about the week. But all the monks are out today because of the funeral, and you find out this guy is now dead because the poisons killed him. So that's a little bit sad. Book 5, after the funeral, he goes to the pub. He starts drinking with his friends, and then they burst into this song. And at first the song is very cheery and happy, But then he underlies that the song actually has a deeper message about keeping your humanity in this war and trying to remember the loved ones that you're fighting for and not becoming a monster that you're trying to kill. So what originally starts off with this cheery little song that he sings actually is a lot deeper if you look into it. Then we swing to book 6. Book 6 is where he visits his 2IC's wife's house. So his 2IC is got left behind and is MIA, presumed dead. He goes over to that man's wife's house, and he basically tells her that he's missing, and then she tells him that her sons have both died, and then she kind of hints at the promise, which I reference later, and it's a very sad, and I basically fade to black with both of them crying and remembering an old story about how they both met. Then we get to book 7. This is where it gets interesting. So the big catch with this book is the woman that the 2IC's wife is. Before she moved to this city, she was actually an assassin. And now that both her sons, I should say, are dead and her husband is dead, she doesn't want to live in the city anymore. She's going back to her job. But to get back to her job, she needs to make sure everyone thinks that she's dead. So the way she does that is she gets another woman who looks like her, and she takes her to a house, gags her, ties her up, and then kills her. And then she burns down her house with everything in it to make everyone think that she's dead. And the original way I imagined this book was that I was going to word it in a way that if you had a dirty mind, you would think one thing's going to happen, and then bang, with this slip of the knife through the heart, and she revealed that she's an assassin, it would completely go the different way. Kind of like a shock twisting. But I think I'm going to tone it down a lot from that. Maybe just start with the woman dead and her explaining and her burning the house down, and not have the getting the woman into the house, mainly because I want to keep it not too bad. We then have book 8, the killing plus the bomb. So before she leaves, she needs to tie up some issues she has with the town. So it's referenced in this book that her first son died of starvation and her second son died of sickness. So she goes out and she kills the local baker, which would not give her enough bread for her money, and partly the reason why her son died. And then she kills the monk, and he was the one that couldn't give her medicine because it was all going to the front lines. And the basic way it's going to happen is she's going to have like a bow, and she's going to recount the sins, and then she's going to let go of the arrow, and it flies, and it's just... I probably won't describe what's going to happen when the arrow hits him, but it'll be interesting. And then the third person she kills is actually this guy, this sailor. She makes him recount the promise that he promised her that he was going to bring home her husband, and he would promise his life that he would do whatever he could to bring her home, him home. Ack. So because he hasn't done it, and when he recites the promise, she then kills him to make sure that he keeps up with her promise. She then goes back to the inn that she's staying in, and she finds a letter saying that, "I know what you've done, Jane. You need to stop." And what's going to be important about that letter is throughout this book, when I introduce her, I'm going to call her Sarah. But here, when she kills a woman, she's going to say, "Sarah's gone, Jane's back." And Jane's her true name. So for someone to leave her a letter saying that, "Jane, you need to go, I'm going to kill you," basically means someone knows who she really is. Then she's narrowly going to miss a crossbow bolt coming through her window, and that's going to lead into book 9. Book 9 is the chase. So whoever shot the crossbow bolt, she's going to chase down, and she's going to catch up to him with a bit of sword fight, and then she's going to pin him down, and then this is where the big reveal happens. The husband, who was thought to be MIA and killed, is actually the person that tried to kill her with the arrow. And how I explain it is very simple. In this book over here, they're going to explain how they met. They met in a pub. But he's going to tell her that things weren't the way it was. He's an actually assassin as well, and he was in that pub to kill her. His bosses told him to kill her, but he fell in love with her, said no to the bosses, killed the bosses, and they lived in this new town with new lives. So she's then shocked, and while she's shocked, he cuts her and she's bleeding out. And he said it wasn't for revenge, it won't be for money, this is for this guy who you killed. He then starts to walk away. She's like, I don't know, Jimmy, and he turns around and bang, she's going to shoot him with a crossbow, and it's going to fade to black. So what makes this book series a lot more darker, I would say, is this is nowhere near the battlefield, but there's a lot of death. In the main three characters all die. This monk dies from the poisoning, and you find out about that in book 4. This sailor dies in this book from the assassin lady. The assassin lady then dies from her husband in this book, and her husband also dies. And yeah, end credits will be thanks to whoever helps me publish. And thanks for reading, blah 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 blah. And yeah, that's the kind of aim of my story. I'm hoping to make this story a lot more mature, as I said. So a lot more twists that if you're not going to watch this video, you probably won't see coming. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video. I've started writing up book 1, and hopefully I'll have all these written up in the next week, and then I'll start publishing them out. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is your Sergeant signing.